Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. I wonder, Taoiseach, would you agree with me that Edward Snowden is an international hero? A young man at the start of his life, a promising career, a loving family, a family which he's unlikely ever to see again. A person who has become, in effect, an international exile for the crime of releasing information in the public interest. Information of large-scale US surveillance, not just on its own citizens or its perceived enemies, but indeed on its so-called friends. Those institutions in the European Union where, to be honest, it's a bit of a stretch to say that surveillance of the European Commission has anything got to do with the war on terror. In fact, it is much more likely to be linked to the EU-US trade talks that are imminent. And I think it is somewhat ironic, Taoiseach, that if this was Iran or North Korea engaged in this activity, there would be an absolute clamour for something to be done. Instead, we have quite deep shockwaves throughout the international community, but not a great response in other levels. This young man has put the spotlight on the need to deal with the whole area of surveillance. As the European Court of Human Rights rightly warned, a system of secret surveillance for the protection of national security may undermine or even destroy democracy under the cloak of defending it. Now, this young man has done a huge service as far as I'm concerned. Given the manner in which he's been treated, with the withdrawal of his passport, with the bullying and leaning on countries that might offer him asylum, he has a real danger of being persecuted should he be returned to the United States, not least because of the treatment meted out to Bradley Manning, or because of the fact that President Obama has gone after whistleblowers more than anybody else, filing charges under the Espionage Act against 8 people already, twice of the count of all his predecessors. Now, Taoiseach,
thank you.
Your Taoiseach, when we joined the United Nations Human Rights Council, rightly said that this gave us a chance of playing an active role in the promotion and protection of human rights worldwide and to make a distinctly Irish contribution. That day has come. Edward Snowden is in grave danger. What is the point in us being on this body if we're not going to do anything about it? And on that basis, and in the public interest, I'm asking you, will you condemn the actions of the US government in the hounding of Edward Snowden, in the hounding of any countries that might offer him asylum? Will you confirm that he has applied to the Irish authorities for asylum? And will you confirm that you will unequivocally support that application and give him refuge in this country?
This is a serious matter that needs to be cleared up, and the facts need to be determined here, Deputy Daly. I referred to this this morning in the European Parliament because of the decision taken at the G8 in Fermanagh that the formal negotiations in regard to the EU-US trade negotiations and mandate would formally commence in Washington in July. Clearly, the allegations that are made here of US surveillance of EU premises are a matter of concern to everybody, Ireland included. Therefore, the EU's External Action Service has sought urgent clarification of the situation in both Washington and in Brussels. The European Union is now expecting to hear shortly from the US authorities. High Representative Ashton, on behalf of the European Union, Ceann Comhairle, has also spoken directly to Secretary of State Kerry in Brunei. We've already discussed this with senior officials here in the US Embassy in Dublin, indicating that we expect clarification on this as soon as possible to follow on the EU request. Clearly, this country values greatly its relationship with the United States, both bilaterally and in the context of the European Union, and we expect to continue that cooperative relationship in the time ahead. Let me confirm to you that the gentleman you mentioned, Mr. Snowden, has written to the Irish Embassy in Moscow requesting that he be granted asylum in Ireland. It's clear from the content of his letter, Deputy Daly, that Mr. Snowden is facing potentially very serious criminal charges in the United States relating to his having made public information which was privileged and confidential relating to the US government. I point out to you that asylum applications are not accepted from persons resident or present in other countries, as our refugee status determination, Ceann Comhairle, is based on applications for asylum made within the Irish jurisdiction. Accordingly, asylum applications made at Irish embassies abroad are not accepted. Section 8 of the 1996 Refugee Act provides that any person who arrives at the frontiers of the state, or any person who at any time is in the state seeking the status of a refugee, may apply to the Minister for a declaration of refugee status. It is a generally accepted principle internationally, and one which Ireland applies, that a person should seek asylum in the first safe host country in which they arrive. Clearly, that Mr Snowden has written to the Irish Embassy in Moscow, vindicated the conditions that apply here. The process of dealing with this account, Corla, if a valid application comes, is in accordance with the framework of international legal conventions like the Geneva Convention, EU directives and regulations.
Thank you. Deputy Daly, 1 minute.
I'm not really sure what you need clarified, because it is a fact that the US authorities have engaged in the surveillance that is alleged, and I note that you're not willing to condemn their actions but instead diminish it as being a matter of concern. Well, it is a matter of very grave concern with serious consequences to our entire democracy, to be honest, and it is in those exceptional circumstances that I ask the questions about Edward Snowden himself, because while you've confirmed that he has applied for asylum here, you've sort of brushed that off as saying, well, it doesn't allow us to facilitate him if he's not on our shores already. What was the criteria by which the Vietnamese boat people got here, the Bosnian refugees, which were correctly taken into this country as well? Exceptional circumstances require exceptional measures. I seem to remember that it was deemed sufficiently important to get an Irish passport for Tony Cascarino on the grounds of a fictitious grandmother so he could be part of Jackie's army. I think a little bit of creativity on the grounds of the very serious danger that this young man is under and the very great service he has done to democracy on a global scale. Now, we have a chance to be a world leader in defending human rights and pointing a way forward, and I am really urging you, Taoiseach, to look at this seriously, to consider as well, and if you could deal, if he does land here, will you give him refuge from the undoubted persecution that he faces?
Well, I didn't meet Tony Cascarino's grandmother, and I don't know whether she was fictitious or not. But I understand that Mr Snowden, according to WikiLeaks this morning, has applied for asylum in 21 countries, and I can confirm to you, Deputy Editor, that he has written to the Irish Embassy in Moscow. As I said to you, the way that this country has operated its refugee status determination is from persons who are resident in the state or in the jurisdiction of the state. And if an application is received and that is valid from Mr Snowden, it will of course be processed in accordance with the Geneva Convention and the declarations that apply from the European Union and the regulations that accompany that. That's the procedure for every person who looks for asylum status in this country.
Thank you.